The Roots of Pride. Harriet Elizabeth Pembroke was born in 1845 into a bourgeois Boston family, the only daughter of a prosperous fabric merchant and a mother obsessed with social conventions. From her earliest age, she grew up in a world where appearance took precedence over substance, where every gesture, every word had to reflect the family's social status. Her mother, Margaret Pembroke, a former schoolteacher turned high society lady, instilled in her the importance of rank and respectability. Her father's store, located on Washington Street, attracted Boston's wealthy clientele. Harriet spent hours in the back room, observing the elegant ladies who came to choose their fabrics. She developed an early taste for beautiful things and a fascination with social codes. But she also noticed how her father bowed before wealthy customers, how he changed his tone according to their apparent fortune. This lesson deeply marked the young girl. At 15, Harriet attended the Academy for Young Ladies on Beacon Hill. Intelligent but capricious, she excelled in subjects that flattered her ego: art history, French literature, good manners. Her teachers described her as brilliant but difficult. Endowed with a sharp tongue she didn't hesitate to use against her less fortunate classmates. She ruled over a small group of friends, whom she manipulated with a mixture of calculated charm and cruelty. The unexpected encounter. It was at a charity ball organized by the Episcopal Church in 1863 that Harriet met Nels Oleson. He was everything opposite to what she had imagined marrying. The son of Norwegian immigrants, Nels worked as a clerk in a fine grocery store in the neighborhood. He had neither fortune nor prestige, but something about him intrigued the young woman. His quiet confidence, his natural kindness, and especially the way he didn't seem intimidated by her haughty airs. Nels, for his part, saw in Harriet a sophisticated beauty who contrasted with the simple girls of his milieu. He was seduced by her intelligence, her culture, even though he already perceived her flaws. Their conversations revealed complementary personalities. She, volcanic and ambitious. He, composed and pragmatic. When Harriet launched into her tirades against common people, Nels listened with an amused smile that disconcerted her. Their engagement scandalized the Pembroke family. Margaret Pembroke had a spectacular nervous breakdown, accusing her daughter of lowering herself. The father, more pragmatic, finally accepted when he discovered that Nels possessed solid savings and commercial expansion projects. The marriage took place in 1864 in a tense atmosphere. Harriet wore her grandmother's white silk dress, but half of her family's guests boycotted the ceremony. The first disillusions. The first months of marriage quickly revealed incompatibilities. Harriet expected Nels to transform his grocery store into a grand Boston department store. She decorated their small apartment above the shop with gaudy luxury that strained their finances. Nels, patient but firm, refused to go into debt to satisfy his wife's whims. Tensions worsened when Harriet realized that marrying a shopkeeper relegated her to a lower social class. Her former friends politely snubbed her, and she found herself caught between two worlds: too aristocratic for Nels's neighbors, too déclassée for her former milieu. This frustration fed her already difficult character. Nellie's birth in 1865 brought temporary respite. Harriet transferred all her disappointed ambitions to her daughter. She covered her with lace and ribbons, determined to make her a little princess. But even motherhood wasn't enough to fill the void she felt. She developed a growing bitterness toward those she perceived as socially inferior, compensating for her own frustrations with ostentatious contempt. The Call of the West. In 1867, the economic situation deteriorated in Boston. Competition from emerging department stores threatened small businesses. Nels, who had always dreamed of adventure, proposed the unthinkable: leaving for the West, where opportunities were numerous for a wise merchant. He had heard of new towns developing along the railway lines, where a general store could prosper. Harriet received this proposal as a personal catastrophe. Leaving Boston meant definitively abandoning her dreams of rejoining high society. But the prospect of remaining in their current situation seemed even worse to her. After months of heated disputes, she finally gave in, on the condition that their installation be temporary. "A few years to make fortune, then we'll return in triumph," she convinced herself. The preparations for departure revealed all the complexity of Harriet's character. She insisted on bringing her porcelain dinnerware, her silk dresses, her precious trinkets. Nels tried to explain the constraints of wagon travel, but she refused to listen to reason. Finally, they left with hybrid equipment, the practical provisions chosen by Nels and Harriet's necessities that considerably weighed down their convoy. The epic crossing. The journey west marked a turning point in Harriet's life. Having left Boston in April 1868 with a caravan of settlers, she brutally discovered the reality of the frontier. Her silk dresses tore on brambles, her patent leather shoes were damaged in mud, her delicate skin suffered from sun and wind. The first weeks were an ordeal. Harriet complained constantly, criticized everything and everyone. She refused to participate in collective chores, considering them unworthy of her rank. The other women in the caravan, mostly from modest backgrounds, looked at her with a mixture of annoyance and pity. But Nels, far from repudiating her, showed infinite patience. He helped her discreetly, compensated for her failings, protected her from mockery. A revealing incident occurred near the Platte River. Harriet, who categorically refused to wash her laundry in the muddy river, accumulated dirty clothes. When little Nellie fell ill with a fever, a woman from the caravan, Mary Patterson, cared for the child all night. In the morning, Harriet found Mary washing and mending Nellie's things. This selfless kindness moved her and, for the first time, she felt something resembling shame. The silent transformation. The journey gradually revealed Harriet's hidden qualities. When the caravan was attacked by bandits near Fort Kearny, she showed unexpected courage, helping to treat the wounded despite her repugnance for blood. When provisions dwindled, she learned to economize, to cook with available means. But these moments of grace remained rare, and she quickly fell back into her bad habits. What intrigued the other travelers was the relationship between Harriet and Nels. Despite his wife's constant whims, he never departed from his benevolence. He seemed to see something in her that others didn't perceive. One evening, around the campfire, he confided to the caravan leader, "Harriet grew up in a golden cage. She's still struggling against the bars, but she's learning freedom." Indeed, under the layers of social veneer, Nels had perceived in Harriet a vulnerability she hid under her arrogance. He understood that her difficult behaviors masked a deep fear, that of being loved only for her social status. By marrying her despite class differences, he had offered her what she unconsciously sought: unconditional love. Settlement in Walnut Grove. After 6 months of grueling travel, the Oleson family arrived in Walnut Grove in October 1868. The small town, still embryonic, counted only a handful of buildings around the railway. Harriet discovered with horror that their store would first be a simple plank shack, with crates for counters and flour sacks as seats. But Nels already saw the future. The town would grow, farmers would settle, and their business would prosper. He was right. Within a few years, thanks to his business sense and reputation for honesty, Oleson's store became the commercial heart of Walnut Grove. Harriet, despite herself, contributed to this success. Her obsession with appearance pushed Nels to care for their merchandise presentation, to offer quality products that other stores neglected. Paradoxically, it was in this small frontier town that Harriet regained a form of social status. As the wife of the main merchant, she automatically became a local notable. But instead of appeasing her, this position reawakened her old demons. She behaved like an aristocrat in exile, despising the inhabitants she considered rustics. The roots of character. This past largely explains the behavior of Harriet Oleson that the inhabitants of Walnut Grove would know. Her pettiness toward modest families like the Ingalls came from her own social insecurity. Her constant attempts to dominate conversations and community decisions reflected her pathological need for recognition. Her overprotection of Nellie reproduced the rigid education she had received. But this past also illuminates Nels's patience. He had seen Harriet vulnerable. He knew her secret wounds. He knew that under the cantankerous shell, hid a woman who had sacrificed her youthful dreams to follow him into adventure. Their marriage held because it rested on mutual understanding. She brought him a form of refinement and ambition. He offered her the stability and acceptance she had never found elsewhere. Thus, when Harriet Oleson arrived in Walnut Grove with her grand airs and pretensions, she carried within her the entire history of a well-bred young girl who had chosen love rather than social conformity, but who had never quite digested this choice. Her difficult character wasn't just gratuitous meanness. It was the result of a life of compromises and frustrations, tempered by the reassuring presence of a man who loved her as she was, with her qualities and her immense flaws.